It's been 4 long, brutal years since my last complete movie collection video. But now is the time for vengeance. Now is the time for justice. And now you get to look at my stupid face for the next hour talking about all of my movies. This is it. Don't get scared now. And if you want more videos, check out my Patreon for bonus Q&A videos, extra vlogs, and my movie podcast called the Flickbuster Podcast, which is exclusively on Patreon. Check it out if you want to. The link's down below. Hey there, guys. How are you? I'm all jacked up on caffeine right now, and it's been 4 years since I've made one of these videos, but for a good reason. These types of videos take years off my life, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make for your entertainment. Now, over the years on YouTube, I've made a handful of these types of videos, and with each video, things change just a little bit. I either get new movies or I get rid of old movies, but it's always fun to go back and revisit some of the movies that I have in my collection that I probably haven't watched in 5 years, but that doesn't matter, because owning them makes me feel better about who I am and what I'm doing in life. And super quick, before we dive in, over there are my DVDs. We're not talking about DVD movies, just Blu-ray movies. And one question I get the most often on YouTube besides, "Hey John, make another Blu-ray movie collection video," which I'm doing now, is, "Hey John, where did you get your movie shelf?" If you want a closer look at that movie shelf, I'll put a link down below. It goes to my Amazon store. It has my movie shelf, the lights I use, my camera, everything I use to make YouTube videos is at the link down below, and it goes to Amazon. So check it out. Boop. And one last thing, you know how this goes. Go grab some popcorn, go grab something cold to drink. No. It's going to be a long video. Make it 5 ice cubes, no more, no less. Now let's talk about all these movies. All right, gotta stretch. It's been a while. All right, let's do this. The first one up is Glass. I really enjoyed this movie. It was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and then I watched the movie, and it almost destroyed itself with those last 10 minutes. Bruce Willis dies in a puddle, and M. Night Shyamalan just lost his entire mind. So the next one after that's Unbreakable. I've always really enjoyed this movie. It's still in the plastic because I've been watching the DVD since it came out, and now I finally got the Blu-ray, but I have yet to watch the Blu-ray. My favorite scene in this film is when Bruce Willis is lifting paint cans down in the basement. That just makes me want to go work out. The next one after that is Aquaman. I've sort of come to enjoy this movie a little bit more after watching it in the theater. It's just a fun looking movie to watch on your OLED TV late at night. I like to watch CG fish and Jason Momoa ride a dolphin. Don't judge me. The next one after that is Toy Story 3, the movie that still makes me cry like a little bitch every time I watch it. And this has one of the best scenes ever put into a Disney movie, or any movie for that matter, and it made me feel something. The scene where they're going down into the furnace, looking at their fate ahead of them and accepting that brings a tear to my eye. I can't think of a better scene Disney has ever made than that. And yeah, I stand, just thinking about it makes me want to cry. Find a happy place, John? Find a happy place. 1.21 gigawatts is pretty much what I'm on right now to do this video. The Back to the Future trilogy, nothing says 80s more. This is one of those movies, this is like the definition of a fun 80s movie for me. And on a side note, I've always secretly wanted a DeLorean. Like, that's my dream car. Yes, please. And a hoverboard, but I'll take the DeLorean. It doesn't even have to go back in time. I just want to drive it. Captain America Civil War. I always really enjoyed this movie. I really like it, but after re-watching it over and over, it's kind of lost a few notches on my favorite Marvel films of all time. Some great scenes, but a lot of subplots I don't really care about in this movie. The next one is, and I know earlier in the video I said it's about quality, not quantity. I know. Well, I sort of lied. I have Predator, the shittiest sequel / reboot of any film franchise ever, where you have giant monster predators, a little boy with special needs who's like a superior, the next step in evolution. It's just crazy. It makes no sense. I hate this movie. It was sent to me for free to talk about, and now I'm talking about it and I hate it. The next one is Batman Returns on 4K. In my opinion, this is my favorite of the first 4 Batman movies. I've always enjoyed this more than the original. Batman Returns just went darker, it's more violent, and as a little boy watching Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman, just lick herself and put a bird in her mouth, as the Penguin would say, I want to show her my French flipper trick. Okay, we'll keep going. The next one is Shazam. I enjoyed this movie. I think it's a good direction in the DC universe of things. I thought Mark Strong's villainous role was a little bit hokey and kind of boring to watch. And also the suit that he wears. It looks good, but all of his muscle definition is it's basically just pillows. I don't know. I don't like things like that. So why couldn't he just gotten more jacked for the movie role? Oh, once again, talking about quality. Yeah, I lied. This is Hellboy. This is the new one that came out with David Harbour from Stranger Things. I was looking forward to this movie, and there's like 6 entertaining minutes throughout this movie, but it's a complete mess. Everyone who made the movie will say it's a mess. And once again, this was sent to me for review, so here's my review. Don't watch this movie. The next one is Batman, the original, on 4K. I have yet to watch this to see what it looks like. I've heard they color graded it a little bit odd. It looks a little too bluish. But I do want to revisit this. I've always enjoyed this, and I'm glad you're dead. The next one is Pet Sematary, which was also sent to me for review. And now I'm going to review all these movies I haven't reviewed that were sent to me in this video. And as far as this film goes, I thought it expanded and went a different direction than what you got in the original, and it had some more subplots that were more faithful to the novel, which I really enjoyed. Overall, I sort of enjoyed this movie. I didn't love it. Will I go back and rewatch it anytime soon? Probably not, but I own it, and well, that's enough for me right now. Let's all take a moment of silence and just embrace how shitty this movie is. Chill. I hate this movie. I hate this movie, but I love this movie, because without this movie being so bad, we would have never gotten Batman Begins. We would have just got more of this Joel Schumacher shit. The other one, speaking of Batman, is Batman Forever. I never loved the Joel Schumacher Batman movies, even as a kid. But this is better than Batman and Robin. Some people like this movie. I don't know. I never really had the passion for this movie. The next one is Departed, one of my favorite Scorsese movies of all time. I really like the contrast between characters Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie. I just love how one's a bad guy, but he looks squeaky clean. The other guy's a good guy, but he looks like a criminal. I always liked that mesh up, and I kind of relate to it. And speaking of criminals, one of my favorite heist films of all time. Hey, Dougie, I'm leaving this whole town in my rearview mirror. I love this film. I love action movies where characters rob banks, they pull off heist. And I think this has probably Ben Affleck's best film he's ever made, and possibly one of the best films he's ever starred in my opinion. I have the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. I have not watched these in a long time. I will probably never watch Spider-Man 3 again. It was one of the worst theater experiences I ever had in my life. The air conditioning went out. Some guy behind me had no teeth, and he was gumming his popcorn for an hour and a half. And then I had to watch Tobey Maguire dance in the streets with eyeliner and not hold doors open for people. What a badass. The next one is the X-Men trilogy. My favorite is obviously X-Men 2. I remember seeing the first one in theaters as a kid and thinking, wow, comic book movies are going to be good from now on. And then we got X-Men 3, The Last Stand. There's a few good scenes. I don't hate it. It's not great. It feels very uninspired, but hey, I liked seeing Wolverine get ripped apart by Jean Grey. I always enjoyed that scene. And plus, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. Next is Cliffhanger. By the way, speaking of this cover, they photoshopped this odd because they have Stallone here, but he's wearing like a tank top and he's sweating, and then they put an icy landscape of mountains in the background. It's very odd. It doesn't make any sense for what's happening, but hey, look at Stallone's muscles rippling on the cover. The next one is Return of the King. Lord of the Rings. Everything that has been said about Lord of the Rings has already been said, so I have nothing new to offer, but these are a must-have in your collection. Need to get those on 4K one day. The next one is Shaun of the Dead. Great film. Love it. Zombies. It's fun. Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is, well, you buy it on Blu-ray and you watch it at least once a year. One of my favorite things about Fight Club is Tyler Durden. The other thing is Edward Norton's character. I enjoy... Well, actually, you know what? I'll just sum it up with this. Bob's bitch tits. There you go. Training Day. Yes, please. I always really enjoyed this movie. I think this might be my favorite Denzel movie of all time. He's just a crooked cop, and I love crooked criminal characters. The next one up is I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in. The Shining. Looking forward to the sequel of this movie coming out soon. Snow White. Not one of my favorite classic Disney animated films, but a must-have in your collection. I always thought it was weird, even as a kid, watching that chick live in that house with 7 little dudes, and one's name's Grumpy and the other one's Sneezy. As a woman, how could you fall asleep in that house and feel okay? The next one up is Pain and Gain. Hey, you gotta get a pump. Not a very good movie. I think the biggest downfall of this movie was it was directed by Michael Bay, and it's sort of like a dark comedy film, but it misses the mark. But I enjoy this movie because of the workout vibe and how full these guys are of themselves, because it's relatable to me, especially when I was a meathead a few years ago. But yeah, it's a fun movie, but not a very good movie. The Fifth Element. I used to watch this movie every day on HBO back in the mid-1990s. Step Brothers, great comedy movie. The Rundown, a very underrated rock movie and probably Peter Berg's best movie. The Name's RoboCop. I'd buy that for $1, and I think I actually paid $5 for this. RoboCop, Paul Verhoeven, in my opinion, one of his best movies, and it made me want to eat baby food as an adult. This is a triple pack. I don't know why I own this. I think I originally bought it for Lord of War, but I already own it. Freelancers I've never seen, and King of New York I've watched one time. I like Christopher Walken. You know, we're going to do a Blu-ray movie collection with a shitty impression of Christopher Walken. And next up is Zombieland. The sequel's coming out. Looking forward to. I always really enjoyed the first 20 minutes of this movie, where you had Columbus and Tallahassee teaming up, and then they ran into Little Miss Sunshine, and then sort of became like a rom-com movie, in my opinion. I just wanted to see the two dudes driving around looking for Twinkies killing zombies. I, Robot. I've always sort of enjoyed this movie. The next one up is Gone Girl. Classic Fincher film, and it's a movie that terrifies me because it really says something with the social commentary in this movie. If someone lies about you, well, you have to prove your innocence. And if someone says I killed my wife, which might happen, okay, it was gonna get dark. But anyway, Gone Girl. The next one up is Man of Steel. Some people don't like this movie. I never understood it. It's not that the happy-go-lucky Superman movie. It's sort of the Superman movie I wanted to see at the time. I thought Henry Cavill was always great as Superman. I liked General Zod in this movie, and the action's fun. And people complain about the destruction in this movie, and I never understood that. When you have two super-powered alien beings fighting for control of all of humanity, shit's gonna get broken. So I've always liked this. I have a video on my channel going to buy this at like 3 o'clock in the morning from years ago, and I don't know. I've always enjoyed the movie, and I want to buy it on 4K eventually. I want to take his face off. Face Off. Classic Nicolas Cage. If you haven't seen this movie, what are you doing with your lives? The next one up is Ocean's 11. Once again, I said I really enjoy heist movies. I like movies with criminals in it. And in my opinion, this is probably one of the best remakes of a classic movie of all time. Quantum of Solace. Just a bad 007 movie. Wall Street. Sort of always enjoyed this movie. I haven't watched it in a very long time. Something about watching Charlie Sheen nowadays sort of depresses me. The Nightmare on Elm Street collection. Always really enjoyed the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Ever since I was a kid in my grandparents' basement watching this, this is why I'm afraid to go into basements right now. Just so many terrifying scenes. The sequel gets a little bit odd. You can take that how you will. But yeah, the first one's obviously the best one. I own this. It's a fun movie. It's a comedy movie. I think the jokes are funny. I can't explain myself right now, so let's just move on. The next one up is Goodfellas, classic Scorsese. The other one is Die Hard with a Vengeance. In my opinion, I think Die Hard with a Vengeance is the best Die Hard film out of all of them. It gives you everything you want and more. And plus that buddy cop vibe with Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson in this film running around. Simon didn't say. Great movie. Kingsman, The Secret Service. Deliverance, Squeal Piggy Squeal. Watch this movie. When you're a kid and you watch this movie, you never want to go canoeing down the river. I promise you that. American Pie Reunion. Not the best sequel, but I've always enjoyed the American Pie movies, and it kind of makes me go back. And I just like this. It kind of reminds me of my own life just a little bit. And Eric Stifler, one of my favorite characters of all time. He's an annoying asshole. Christmas Vacation, one of the best vacation movies, and a must-watch every Christmas. Iron Man, the movie that started it all, and it's a good thing this movie was good, because if this movie sucked, do you think we would be watching Avengers Endgame or Infinity War? No, we would not. Ready Player One. I really wanted to like this movie. I think Spielberg sort of wasted his time making this, but hey, you get to relive some better movies throughout this movie, like Back to the Future, and you get to see the DeLorean. Hocus Pocus. I like this movie. I remember as a kid seeing this in the theaters, and for many years I thought the main character's name was Zachary Binks, not Thackeray. His name's Thackeray. Who names a kid Thackeray? But you gotta watch this every Halloween. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. This film has, I think, one of the best action scenes that use practical effects of all time. When Tom Cruise is running across the Burj Khalifa or the Dubai Tower, just phenomenal. Like, it makes my palms sweaty just thinking about it. A Star is Born. A lot of people love this movie. I try to like it, but it was just sort of a remake of a remake of a remake that I've seen before. But hey, Lady Gaga, she's a pretty good actor. I like her music. Halloween. If you want my in-depth thoughts about this movie, go watch my review. This is one movie I wanted to be so good, and they just sort of let me down. The last like 15 minutes are really good, but man, some of the subplot with the new Dr. Loomis just was awful, but maybe the sequel will be better. The next one up is Evil Dead 2. You have to own that. Spawn. What a shitty comic book movie. Like, this is one of those comic book movies that gave comic book movies a bad name in the 1990s, and sort of it's why studios didn't want to make any more comic book movies, or at least good ones, until like you had Blade, then you got the X-Men movies. But man, the last like 18 minutes of this movie where they go to that really crappy PS1 graphics hell, just so bad. So bad. But as a kid, I thought it was really cool. The Karate Kid with Jaden Smith. I didn't hate this movie. I think what held this movie together was Jackie Chan. It doesn't compare to the original. The next one up is The Hateful Eight. I think this is Tarantino's most underrated film of all time. A lot of people say this doesn't have rewatchability, but for me, I went back and watched this movie like 8 times, no pun intended, Hateful Eight, and I always find little nuances each time I go back, because the dialogue in this film has some of the best Tarantino dialogue of all time, and I really enjoy movies where characters are stuck in one location, and this is the ultimate like example of that, so I've always enjoyed it. Armageddon. Backstory, really quick, I might have shared this before. As a kid, I didn't have any friends. I went to see this in the movie theater by myself, and because I'm a stupid kid, I went to, I thought it was like the 1 o'clock showing of this movie, but I went to the wrong theater, and I sat in a dark theater for 2 hours before this movie started, because I didn't have a watch or a clock. I was just excited to be at the movie theater. And then my mom came to pick me up, and they couldn't find me because I was in the wrong movie theater, and they thought I got kidnapped, so I had to wait till this movie came out on HBO to watch the last like hour of it. That's my backstory about Armageddon. Footloose. One of my favorite scenes of all time was when Kevin Bacon just loses his shit, smokes a cigarette, throws a beer, and starts dancing in a warehouse. It's just, it's so inspirational. If I could dance, that's what I would do every Friday night. Big Trouble in Little China. Always a classic. Old School. Hilarious movie. The Wizard of Oz. There's not much more I can say about this movie other than the fact I always wanted to be the Tin Man, and it gives me nightmares. Blade Runner 2049. Really enjoyed this movie. I think it's one of the best sci-fi films of like the last 5 years. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Talk about a good movie. Like, this is what the Spider-Man franchise should aim to be. If this movie was in live action, it would be the best Spider-Man movie of all time, and some still say it is. But for me, I would have liked to have seen something like this in live action. So please, Sony, make a good movie like this again. Stop making movies like Venom. The next one is The Incredibles 2. I waited, I think, 14 years for this sequel, and it was pretty good. didn't love it as much as the original, but it's a pretty good sequel. Forrest Gump on 4K. Not a very good looking 4K. Definitely has some issues. People look a little bit glossy. But this at one point was my favorite movie of all time because it gives you just... It's like 25 movies in one with Forrest Gump. And plus Lieutenant Dan. He is... I don't know if he's the most unintentionally... He's the most unintentionally funny character of all time. That or someone just wrote him with the best dark humor of all time. When he's just sitting there on New Year's Eve, I laugh every time. The next one up is Lord of War on 4K. I think this is probably Nicolas Cage's most underrated film. It's always one of my favorite films. I skipped school back in 2005, so me and my friend could go watch this movie at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Just phenomenal movie. Anything with Nick Cage in it makes me laugh, and I think this is watch this if you haven't seen it before. The original Batman anthology on Blu-ray. I have the 4K movie, so this is something I don't really need anymore. But I own it. Doctor Strange. This movie's still in the plastic. I bought this 2 years ago. Just for me, Doctor Strange is probably like one of the Marvel films I've never had the desire to go back and watch. I liked it. I just don't feel like rewatching it. Once again, I talked about quality, and I lied to you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. I bought it because of the Steelbook back in like 2010. The next one up is Star Wars: The Last Jedi, a very controversial film. It doesn't really feel like a real Star Wars movie to me. It almost feels like episode 7.5 or something. It doesn't feel like... It feels like the TV Netflix version of a Star Wars movie. You could take a land, but you can't take our Blu-rays. I love epic movies. Braveheart. The Meg, I have yet to watch this. This was sent to me. I didn't hate this, but I actually read the novel of this. And the novel of this is way better. It makes the story a lot more intense and epic. It doesn't make it such like an over-the-top like sci-fi movie. But hey, Jason Statham and huge sharks. The name's Dalton. I thought you'd be a lot bigger. This film... Listen, and I mean this when I say it. Roadhouse is one of my favorite films of all time. Patrick Swayze, growing up in my home when I was a kid, was like you had Jesus Christ and then you had Patrick Swayze. Okay? Please watch this. Just the pinnacle of what a tough guy movie should be. Four Brothers, Iron Man 3. Man, that Mandarin twist. A Christmas Carol. I probably haven't watched this since I bought it in 2010 or 11, and I don't know if I ever will watch it again. This is when Robert Zemeckis was going through his motion capture phase. Magnificent Seven, a fun Western movie, but I haven't watched it in a very long time. Big Hero 6, a movie I really enjoyed the first time I watched it, and once again, I've had no desire to ever go back and revisit this movie. Big. Phenomenal movie. I think this is one of my favorite Tom Hanks movies right beside Forrest Gump. And my one issue with this film was you have the character, the young version of whatever his name is, and then you have Tom Hanks' grown-up version of the same character. And Tom Hanks is like pretending to be like a kid, but the younger version of Josh, that's the character's name, he doesn't feel like this happy-go-lucky kid. He's kind of grumpy and a little bit like introverted, and I just feel like there was a little bit of a mix-up in that film with the same character being completely different when Tom Hanks portrays the character compared to when the kid actually plays a kid. Am I rambling? Does anything I just say made sense? Anyway, the next one up is Bad Lieutenant. This film has made me laugh more in a theater than any other movie in my life. I went to an art house theater filled with old people, senior citizens, and they thought they were going to get like some kind of art house film starring Nicolas Cage. Me and my friend laughed like hyenas throughout this film. The scene where Nick Cage, he shows up behind a door and cuts off an old lady's oxygen tube. I was laughing hysterically for 5 minutes, and everyone in the theater is looking at me like I just smoked crack. Mortal Kombat. This is the best video game movie ever made, and ever will be made. As a kid, this was like my favorite movie of all time. Looking forward to the new Mortal Kombat movie. Hope it's good. Where do we want to go? Detective Pikachu. I just got this in the mail the other day. I've yet to see it. I'm sort of savoring the flavor, and I will watch it soon. Ooh, don't fall. Do not fall. Blood Diamond. I don't think many people could say they watched Blood Diamond over and over like 10 times, but I have. I've always really enjoyed this film. I think it's extremely underrated, and it's a great film. It gives you a lot of things that you want in a movie, like that adventure vibe. They go to Africa. Leonardo DiCaprio is a mercenary, but with a heart. Guardians of the Galaxy, that was at one point my favorite Marvel film for a very long time. Finding Nemo, the Steelbook, I'll set that down gently. I'm sorry once again, I don't even know why I own this. I just bought it on Black Friday just to be cool years ago. I've never watched it. It's still in the plastic, and I will sell it probably eventually. Transformers Age of Extinction. Just, why did I buy that? You're better than that, John. Almost Famous. Wall-E. Favorite part of this movie is the first 10 minutes of the film when he's just cleaning up trash by himself on that trash planet known as Earth. Then we have I Am Legend. This movie could have been so much more than it was, and then they had to kind of throw in shitty CG zombies. But I like post-apocalyptic movies. Nice Guys. Very underrated film. Really enjoy this. The Accountant. Fun movie. Ben Affleck plays he's a tax accountant and a hitman, so you can't go wrong with that. My favorite scene in that film is when he's beating his shins with bamboo sticks and listening to metal music. That's how I go to bed. Over the top. Winner takes all, loser takes the fall. Why? Because he needs to arm wrestle for custody of his son. This is a movie about arm wrestling and truck driving. There's 25 minutes of this movie is just dudes covered in baby oil screaming, slapping each other in the face, and arm wrestling. That is the finale of this movie. That is the best finale in a movie ever made. You guys know I've talked about this movie 1,000 times, and I love it. I love it. Oh, I love it. All right. The next one up is Home Alone 1 and 2. These define my childhood. This is the reason my uncle had to get stitches. Let me explain. As a stupid young kid, I once tied fishing line across the doorway, and my uncle walked through the house, tripped over it, fell, hit his head on a table. But hey, I had to set up booby traps just in case someone broke in our house. Aliens, one of the quintessential action films of all time. Get away from her, you bitch. Waterworld. I love big, dumb action movies, especially from the 90s and 1980s. And this is Kevin Costner just living his life on a boat as a recluse. And the movie opens up with him peeing in a cup and drinking his own urine. That is, what more do you want? It's essentially Mad Max on water. Baby Driver. That could have been me in another life. The Shawshank Redemption. Let me do a Morgan Freeman impression. I wish the mic was closer. It's dangling over my head. My name is Morgan Freeman. Doesn't have the same tone unless the mic's in front of my mouth. I think this is the best film adaptation of any Stephen King novel ever made. Kingdom of Heaven. Really good movie. Not a lot of people love it, but I always have. I love big epic movies. Stallone. Rambo. Great Rambo movie. I love it. The scene where he's on the turret gun just screaming. So satisfying. The Wolverine. I enjoyed this movie, except for like the last 5 minutes when he fights a Decepticon. But it's still in the plastic. Never watched it on Blu-ray. Inglourious Bastards. Tarantino. American Beauty. Just some of the scenes that always stood out to me was when Kevin Spacey, who we can't talk about any longer, is naked in his garage working out. That will be my life one day. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the movie that inspired me to ditch school and also ditch like half of my college classes. Somehow I graduated. I'm not quite sure why, but I blame this movie for that. Dazed and Confused, one of the best like coming to age movies. I love films like this. I love time period movies, and the 70s just look like a really good time. Creed 2, still in the plastic. I enjoyed Creed 2. I really thought it was a decent sequel, and it gave me everything. I actually wanted more backstory on Ivan Drago. They give you a little bit in this movie, but I wanted more. He was like one of my favorite villains of all time. Wonder Woman. Hey, DC made a good movie. The Legend of Billie Jean. Probably not a lot of people talk about this movie. Probably a lot of people haven't seen this movie, and I don't blame you. It's a weird, awful movie starring Christian Slater, but as a kid, I always remember watching it over and over on beta tape. Just a really odd 80s movie. Bug's Life. I watched this a few months ago. Still really enjoyed it. Put the Blu-ray back in the box. Con Air. This is such an over-the-top 90s action movie, and we don't get movies like this. And the movies that attempt to be over-the-top and action-packed like this lack the charisma and entertainment value that something like Con Air can give you. There's a character in this movie named Cyrus the Virus. Yes. The Lion King. The only Lion King movie that exists that you should watch. And the only one that I will ever show my kids one day. Elite Squad, I have yet to watch this. Independence Day. I gotta call my lawyer. I gotta call him. Wait, let me start that over. I gotta call my brother. I gotta call my lawyer. Is that, am I even saying it right? Oh, forget my lawyer. There we go. You get it. I always loved this as a kid. Great popcorn action movie. And by the way, would you guys like to go break into Area 51 with me and look at the aliens? Batman Begins. This is the film, honestly, that I think sort of re-inspired my love for films. This is like in 2005. I watched this in the theater 5 times, and I was like, wow, there's more to movies than just watching movies. There's something else here, and this is I don't know. This is just, it's such a motivational movie for me. Nightcrawler. Probably, maybe, arguably my favorite movie of all time. Just every single element of this movie is done perfectly. And then we got Velvet Buzzsaw by the same director recently, which sort of sucked. But man, Jake Gyllenhaal, I love this film as Louis Bloom. The name of the company is Video Production News, a professional news gathering service. That is how it should be read, and that is how it should be said. If you've never seen Nightcrawler, please watch it. I highly recommend it. I want to be Louis Bloom in this movie. I just want to drive around all night recording things, other than me going to McDonald's and Walmart. The next one is Social Network. I've really always enjoyed this movie. And speaking of Fincher films, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which might be one of my favorite David Fincher films, and watching this movie, the first time I watched this movie in the theater, it was like 12 o'clock at night. It was a cold, rainy night. I was all alone in the theater. I was so immersed into this movie. Just perfect. Rogue One. We don't want to talk about that. The best part of that movie is 30 seconds of Darth Vader just ripping shit apart. V for Vendetta, I think, is one of the best comic book movies ever made. I also skipped high school back in 2005 to watch this movie. Well worth it. Who cares about math class? Casino Royale, the best 007 movie in my opinion, and one of the best action films of like the last 20 years. It's almost like 3 perfect movies in one. This is like a movie that gives you everything you want from the character of James Bond. The Hangover. Yeah, I don't really want to watch it. The Terminator anthology. Gosh, I could talk about Terminator for 5 hours straight. My biggest complaint with this is the menu that pops up. It takes like 25 minutes to start up, and it's really complicated and slow and glitchy. I hate the menu for this anthology. But I have a video talking all about this from years ago on YouTube. And T2 is my favorite action movie of all time. I think it gives you everything you would ever want from Arnold, and just the T-100. And I was always jealous of young John Connor. I always wanted to ride around on a motorcycle with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and also just ride my dirt bike and hack into ATM machines with an Atari and go play video games in an arcade. He was so cool. Fantasia 2000, I bought this years ago. I've never watched it, but I was in a weird phase of my life where I was trying to collect every single classic Disney animated film. Cinderella Man. I really enjoyed this movie. I went back and revisited it many times. I love sort of an underdog story about someone who rises up and reclaims glory. Roger Rabbit. Jessica Rabbit in this film, as a young boy, taught me what it was to be a man. The Mad Max trilogy. I think Road Warrior is a phenomenal movie. As a kid, I watched it over and over on beta tape, because my dad would record movies off TV on a beta tape in the early 90s. And man, I was just like, there's a dude with assless chaps with some little guy riding on the motorcycle behind him with a chain wrapped around his neck. I was like, I hope I never go to that post-apocalyptic wasteland. And Lord Humongous. Leave the few and I will spare your lives. Jarhead, great film, underrated Jake Gyllenhaal movie. Van Helsing, one of my guilty pleasure movies. I watch this movie every Halloween. I enjoy it. I think it's garbage, but I remember seeing it with friends in theaters back in I see a lot of movies I saw back in 2005. I really enjoy this movie. I think it's bad, but I enjoy it. I have The Shawshank Redemption on Steelbook. Oh, here's Ghost Protocol. I showed you the 4K earlier. I still have the old Blu-ray. See, I need to trade in a lot of these movies. Leon the Professional, John Wick 2, American History X, phenomenal movie. Man, I think this is a really, if you love films, this is a must-watch in my opinion. Thor, I've never had the desire to go back and rewatch this movie. And when they got rid of Jane Foster, the love interest of Thor in the second movie, or whenever they did it, I was like, good. She didn't want to be there. And now she's going to be female Thor in the upcoming movie. So, Gone in 60 Seconds. Nicolas Cage is stealing cars. I could watch that for 10 hours straight. Jurassic Park. As a kid, I remember seeing Jurassic Park in the theaters with my parents. I cried during the Velociraptor scene in the kitchen. They took me out of the theater, and I don't know why I did that, and I'm angry at myself for doing it. I was a disappointment as a child. As far as part 2 and part 3, but the first one of my favorite Spielberg films of all time. Captain America: The Winter Soldier, probably my top 2 or 3 Marvel films of all time. The Karate Kid. I always really appreciated the story of Johnny in this movie. I know with the new show Cobra Kai, everyone's like, oh, Johnny this, Johnny that. But long before all of that, before it was popular, I always truly, I admired Johnny in this film. I could see the struggle behind his eyes. I related to it. Plus, Cobra Kai was just really cool. Sweep the leg. Yes, sensei. Kill List. Okay, let's dive back into it. Mrs. Doubtfire. This movie doesn't get the credit it deserves for being so creepy. Think about how creepy this movie really is. Imagine if your dad did this to you, dressed up like an old lady, and watched over you. You can't fix that. Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. I don't even know. I don't really like this movie, but I have it. Rumble of the Bronx. Great Jackie Chan movie with some of the worst audio dubbing. Hey, D'Angelo! But it's a fun movie, and as a kid, when you see, this is like my first introduction to Jackie Chan. Man, the blooper reels in these movies alone are worth the watch. Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Hey y'all, Mary Poppins. Thor: The Dark World, probably my least favorite Marvel film of all time. Dark Elves, don't give a shit. The Walking Tall, rock movie. The Lost World, Jurassic World. I don't really like the new Jurassic World movies. They just feel soulless and kind of bland, and the color grading looks all bluey and teal. And the newest one I will never watch, Fallen Kingdom, just not a real movie. Inception. Hey, it's a dream within a dream. How many layers deep can we go? I think he's still dreaming at the end of the movie. I think the whole thing was a dream. That's just my thoughts. Blade. This was like the first great comic book film of the late 1990s. Rated R, they weren't afraid to go for it, and if Marvel makes another Blade movie or TV show, they won't do it, but I want it to be rated R. Batman Lego movie, fun, good time. I have a movie review of this. I haven't watched it, and I bought it, and it's still in the plastic, but hey, I own it. Die Hard, Bruce Willis scrubbing. My brain's melting now. All right, Bruce Willis crawling through ventilation shafts, walking on broken glass. Talladega Nights still in the plastic, but I always enjoyed the kids in this film. You know what I did today? I went down to the bridge and threw Grandpa's war medals off. Shut up, old man. I'll scissor kick you in the back of the head. I'm all jacked up a mountain too. I hope my kids talk to me like that one day. 22 Jump Street, still in the plastic. Gangs in New York, really enjoyed that movie. Zack and Miri Make a Porno. How can you not enjoy this movie? It's just everything you want to see. I love Kevin Smith movies. War Dogs, I think I watched that one time. Ant-Man. Real Steel. This is basically an over-the-top remake, but with robots, and I'm okay with that. Oh, I have the Mission Impossible 6 movie collection set. All 4 movies on 4K. I also have them individually. This was sent to me. I'm going to keep this version of it. I like everything in one package. But yeah, and Rogue Nation, the newest, not Rogue Nation. I'm so stupid. What is the newest? Mission Impossible Fallout. That film defines what action films should be. Practical effects blended with CG, and Tom Cruise, the last true remaining action hero that we have, who does his own shit, jumps out of planes. I mean, I salute him. So I actually I feel like watching that right now, talking about it. I hate Pan. Hook. Oh, I love Hook. This is a must-watch film. This is the film that just takes me back to my happy place. Run home, Jack. Run home, Jack. Gosh. I always wanted to be Rufio. You recruit bag of pre-food chew, dude. The Mummy, a great Stephen Sommer film. Kind of like a big-budget popcorn B-rate movie. We're going to the Rock. That was my Sean Connery impression. That was really bad, wasn't it? Huh. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen. They're not getting any better, are they? So I will just stop. But back in the 90s when this first came out, this was like my favorite action movie for a very long time. Transformers. I enjoyed the first Transformers movie, and I'm going to talk really bad about some of the sequels, but I always enjoyed the first Transformers movie. I don't care what anyone says. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I have rewatched this movie probably 75 times. I've always enjoyed it. I love time period movies where Kevin Costner plays an Englishman without doing an English accent. Because why? He just couldn't do it. But I love the Nottingham Forest in this film. I love the tree houses. I love them building that, and I always wanted to do that as a kid. And it's got Christian Slater and Alan Rickman as the sheriff. Yes. It's Sherwood Forest. Sherwood Forest is where they build the forts. I know somebody down below will try to correct me. Hey, I'm doing all this video on the fly. Bear with me. I'm covering a lot of stuff. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. The opening scenes in this movie, or all the scenes that take place at the mall, are very reminiscent to the newest season of Stranger Things, where they have the mall. It's almost based on the mall in this movie. It's just like that quintessential 1980s mall with a movie theater in it. Matchstick Men. Great film. I guess you could honestly say this is probably like Nick Cage's one of his best movies of all time. And once again, I love con artist, criminal characters. Yeah. And by the way he treats his carpet in this film, where he has like a little lint on it, he wants to clean everything. I went through a phase very similar to that. Waiting, a movie if you've ever worked in the food service industry, you will relate to. I've always enjoyed this movie. It's hilarious. They play a game that includes testicles in this movie. If that doesn't make you want to watch it, I don't know what will. But as a guy who delivered pizzas and I worked in a few restaurants, this is very accurate. Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I remember me and my friend went to see this at the movie theater, and I knew nothing about it. And I was like, oh, Forgetting Sarah Marshall? What is this, some kind of rom-com? And then within the first 10 minutes of the movie, you have Jason Segel naked, just screaming, and you shall not pass. And I was like, this is going to be a good movie. The Rocky films, the first one, my favorite, but Rocky 4, not a good one, but man, Rocky 4 is like the definition of 1980s. The movie's an hour and a half long, and half of it is just training montage scenes with rock ballads. The scene with Ivan Drago training, and then Rocky climbing up a mountain. Drago! Like, watch that scene and try not to have your testosterone level go up by 14%. The Italian Job. This was the only good movie in theaters when it came out for like 2 months. And I remember me and my friends went back to rewatch it like 4 times because there was nothing else to do. And they never made a sequel. Everyone loved that movie, and it never got a sequel. Raging Bull. I have not watched that movie in a very long time. The Place Beyond the Pines. I just wanted more of Ryan Gosling's story, the Moto Bandit. I thought his character was so badass. I could have just watched him rob banks all day long. There's a theme here. I like bank robberies. So yeah, I wanted more of that. The Usual Suspects. Don't just look at it. Watch it. On Blu-ray. I have this on 4K somewhere, and we'll talk about American Psycho a little bit more and how relatable it is to me. I have to return some videotapes. You know what? I'm going to make a t-shirt that says, I need to return some Blu-rays. But there's no video stores anymore. Suicide Squad. I will, listen, I'm going to admit when I'm wrong. When this movie first came out, I gave it a positive grade. And I shouldn't have, I didn't like, I tried to like the movie more than I did. I think I had blinders on. Castaway. I love movies about characters stuck in one place once again. This film, for me, a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people think there's not enough going on. But I like movies about characters in solitude. I can watch characters do, as long as you have great characters doing boring things, it's sort of relaxing to me. And when he's on that island and I watch this movie, it sort of transcends me to that tropical island. And I'll be honest with you, like, I could talk to inanimate objects all day long. Give me a volleyball, I'll talk to it. This Batman figure right here, I talk to it for 5 hours every night. Don't judge me. The dinosaur. Yeah, Alien, you gotta watch Alien at least once in your life. The Mule with Clint Eastwood, one of his most uninspired movies of all time. I have this, it was sent to me, and I'll probably never watch it. Dread. Where is the sequel to Dread? Why? Where is this? I need this. So yeah, this at least could be like, if you're gonna have comic book TV shows, make this a new series. This could be a phenomenal series. Like Carl Urban, I'm sure he would do it. It's really disappointing. And this was such a great movie. Terrible trailers though. Mud, criminal movie, really enjoyed this as well. The Watchmen, always enjoyed this. I love the visuals. I love everything about it. I love like the bold yellowness of it. Like Dr. Manhattan walking around with his blue dingly dingler. Jaws. What can I say about Jaws that has not been said yet? The next one is Alice in Wonderland. Not one of my favorite classic Disney animated movies. Juno. Clockwork Orange. Wow. Watch this movie as a kid. It will destroy your childhood. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, another Stanley Kubrick movie. He gets a lobotomy. Sorry I spoiled the movie, but man, it goes dark. Scrooge, I have not watched this movie since VHS in 1993. I have the Transformers 5 movie collection. Once again, this was sent to me for review, and now I'm reviewing it. Don't buy this. Just buy the first Transformers movie. But thank you, Paramount. American Psycho in 4K. Okay. Let's talk about this movie for a little bit. I've always just been attracted to this film. Something about the inner thoughts of Patrick Bateman when he has that nice, clean persona on the outside, but inside he's something else. And I've always felt that way. I don't want to talk about it anymore, but just one of the funniest movies of all time. That is the definition of a dark comedy. You're probably thinking, hey, you're a psycho, John. I know. But don't just look at it, eat it. And Akira, I have another cliffhanger movie. How did that happen? Platoon, Superman the movie, Cars. Hey, if you own one Pixar movie, you got to own them all. Interstellar. I wanted more to this movie than I got. I'm sorry, I just don't buy that love transcends all, and the voice is coming behind a bookshelf in her room. I really wanted a little bit more of a scientific approach to time travel, and I could talk about that for 6 hours. Ghost, Patrick Swayze is a ghost. Point Break. This movie pretty much gave me my motto in life. Not only is it one of my favorite action films of all time, once again, another movie where guys rob banks, but Patrick Swayze's character in this film, he's like a likable anti-hero in a way, and I almost relate to his character. I think that's what makes a great villain, as when you can almost relate to them and you get their ideology. But yeah, it was never about the money, man. It was about us against the system, showing that the human spirit's still alive while everyone else inches down the freeway in their metal coffins. That's how I look at society. Broken Arrow. The best scene in this movie is when the nuclear warhead goes through John Travolta's dummy fake body and it shoots out the back of a train door. Fucking great. Ratatouille, Deer Hunter, Django Unchained might be my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie of all time. I just love the spaghetti western vibe of this movie. Inside Man, another bank robbery movie. He had a really good plot. He had a good plan to rob a bank. Sicario, love this as well. Blade Runner, I have like all 58 editions of the movie. I love the director's cut. Whatever cut doesn't have the narration by Harrison Ford, because that's just atrocious. The Breakfast Club. Would this happen nowadays? No, because nowadays, if all these kids went to detention, no one would talk to each other. No one would share these life stories where they cry to each other. No. You just have kids playing on their phone all day on Facebook. So, a movie that could never be made again. Troy. I love Troy. I love epic swords and sandals flicks. And You Suck a Wine. Edward Scissorhands, Hell or High Water, another bank robbery movie, mid-90s. I thought this movie was pretty accurate to the 90s. I sort of, it was reminiscent to my childhood. So yeah. Last Action Hero, an extremely underrated movie that was ahead of its time. It's sort of like a movie within a movie and an action parody movie that makes fun of action movies. As a kid, I remember seeing this movie with my dad, and it was one of those kinds of memories. Creed, I love it. I think it's better than obviously Creed 2. But yeah, I think this did something to kind of reignite the Rocky franchise. By the way, I bought this during Black Friday. It's 4K. It's still in the plastic and has the promo code sticker on it. Hurricane Heist. This is an abomination against all of humanity. Now, I said I like bank robbery movies, but not this bank robbery movie. This is garbage. This is ass juice. By the way, on my Patreon, months and months ago, me and Chris Stuckman, my good pal, we did an audio commentary track for this movie. So if you join me on Patreon, go scroll through and listen to this audio commentary track for this piece of shit. So bad. La La Land. It's a good musical. I liked it more the first time I watched it than my revisits with the film, but Drive. One movie that I went into not knowing anything about, and my friends hated this movie, but something about it connected to me, and I knew there was something there that I really enjoyed, and just the cinematography in this movie, the music, I love it. I love the character, and I actually have the Scorpion jacket in my closet somewhere. I wear it every once in a while when I drive around late at night in my Dodge Caliber, pretending like I'm a badass. Predator, get to the chopper! Yeah, so a movie that sort of made me want to start working out. Alien 3, The Wolf of Wall Street, hookers, quaaludes, and blow, man. One of Scorsese's best films, in my opinion, and a movie that a man who's 70 years old made. Think, like, the vitality of Scorsese to make a movie like this. It's just, you gotta respect things like that. I gotta stretch. Okay, I need a chair. The next one is Downsizing. I got this by a studio like last year. I did not like this movie. I liked the concept. It's sort of like a movie that you think Robin Williams would have starred in if they made this movie back in 1996. Shrinking yourself down to live large in life. I don't know if anyone would do it. I might consider it. But yeah. A Quiet Place. Probably my favorite movie of the year that this came out in. When was this? 2018? So yeah, looking forward to the sequel. Hulk. I think this is a very underrated Marvel film. Like, this is the version of Hulk we should be getting. Like, he's pissed off, he's angry, he's crushing things. He's not, Professor Hulk. He's not taking selfies with little kids. I like the new version of, I like the way the new version of Hulk looks, but I just wanted the anger that came with this one. E.T. on 4K. I have not watched this. I never loved E.T. I've always liked it. I respect it, but yeah, Elliot. Just that creepy little finger coming at you. The next one is Kill Bill. The Mummy Returns. X-Men First Class. Really enjoyed this film. Man, the Holocaust scenes with Kevin Bacon. Chocolata. Is that what he says? Chocolate. I don't remember, but man, I enjoyed this. I think Matthew Vaughn, I wish he would have directed another X-Men movie. Silence of the Lambs. Once again, as a kid, I watched a lot of these dark, horrific films on TV late at night, and they sort of made me who I am today. And if you guys want my my Buffalo Bill impression, I'll do it. I can do it if you want. It puts the lotion in the basket. It puts the lotion in the basket. It puts the fucking lotion in the basket! Oh, okay, let's go to the next one. Batman The Dark Knight Returns Deluxe Edition. Love this animated film. Great score, too. Ocean's 13, not that great. Avengers Age of Ultron, I liked this a lot more when it first came out, but if you're going to watch an Avengers film, like, this is the one I think no one's going to go back and revisit. It's like, let's watch Infinity War, you know? Terminator 2 Judgment Day on 4K. Do not buy this 4K movie. I love the movie. Terrible 4K transfer. It looks nothing like the original. It's all blue looking, and it's just like it lost the soul that it originally had. And plus, some of the they try to clean it up a little bit too much. The Dark Knight on 4K. You guys know I love this movie, and on 4K it looks phenomenal. It's like watching the movie in the theater. Maximum Overdrive, a really shitty movie, directed by Stephen King himself, but I've always sort of enjoyed it. Like, it's just a lot of fun. Trucks driving around killing people. I wish it starred Nick Cage. Top Gun, Steelbook, still in the plastic. I need to revisit this before the new one comes out. Dudes oiled up playing volleyball on a beach. Saving Private Ryan, this is a phenomenal looking 4K transfer. Highly recommend it. Probably the most emotional Spielberg movie for me. I know he made Schindler's List, but for me, this one is like right beside that as far as the emotions go. And next up, I have this thing. I talked about this in a video a long time ago, and this is the complete classic Batman TV series. Just hokey garb. Like, it's hokey. It's bad, but man, it's iconic, and it looks really good when they did the transfers of this, because the reason is they actually shot their original TV show on film. It wasn't shot on videotape like a lot of TV shows in the 1980s and 1990s. They shot this on film, so the transfer looks great. I will set that down over there. Actually, you know what? I wonder if it still makes sound. Hang on. Come on. How do I don't remember how to do this. I thought this used to have sound effects. Oh, here it is. Well, the battery's dead. Okay. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, probably my favorite music of all time, because it's so creepy and dark, and I always wanted to go into the Chocolate Factory and steal an Oompa Loompa. Fury, sort of an underrated war movie in my opinion. The Fighter. I love Christian Bale's character in that film when he's just smoking crack, jumping out of windows. Equilibrium, sort of a Matrix B-rate ripoff movie, but hey, I say that with respect to this movie. Definitely check this movie out. Christian Bale's phenomenal in this movie. Just a really good time. It's sort of a cheap movie. Like, you can tell they wanted to be more futuristic than they were, but they're driving around cars from 1992 spray painted white. Ladybugs. Just a bizarre movie where Rodney Dangerfield makes his stepson dress up like a girl to play soccer. Hey, I would do it. Saul. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. I remember falling asleep in the theater watching this overly bloated piece of garbage. The Prestige, I think, is one of my favorite Nolan movies and extremely underrated. Ender's Game, I have not rewatched this since the theaters. I liked it in the movie theater, but didn't have the urge to rewatch it. Snow White. I have another version of this somewhere we already talked about. 2001: A Space Odyssey, very ahead of its time, and I could talk about conspiracy theories and the moon landing and Stanley Kubrick all day, but I won't do that. But yeah, just a movie that was way ahead of its time. The Never-Ending Story. And if you watch Stranger Things, well, you'll never get that song out of your head. Die Hard 2. I enjoy Die Hard 2. Transformers. Dark of the Moon. Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions. Two sequels that I was extremely let down at. Just the CG moments in these movies, just... They lost me. They lost me when you see Keanu Reeves looking like wacky inflatable arm guy fighting 6,000 Agent Smith. X-Men Apocalypse on 4K. Not a very good X-Men movie, but there's some fun moments, and it looks great on 4K. Monsters, Inc. The Patriot. I love The Patriot. Like I said, I love time period movies that are epic, and Heath Ledger in this film and Mel Gibson's performance, top notch. And some of the battle scenes throughout this film are really intense. Like, you have Mel Gibson just losing his shit and hacking a whole British squad of soldiers to death. Man, that's brutal. And I actually think this is... I forgot the director. Hang on. Roland Emmerich, sorry. Brain is melting out of my ear all the way. It's almost completely gone. But I think this is Roland Emmerich's best film. The Dark Knight Rises. This is the best looking Batman movie on 4K of all time. Now, I like The Dark Knight more, but The Dark Knight Rises, all the IMAX sequences, go watch this. Oblivion. I don't like this movie. It kind of gets really boring. Like, great concept, some fun scenes, but man, after the first 20 minutes of this movie where the plot actually starts going a direction, I just wanted to see Tom Cruise ride around on his motorcycle all day. Like, I didn't care about anything after that. The Warrior, one of my favorite Tom Hardy movies. I love his performance as Tom. He's just so badass. Nah, you weren't there when my mother was on her hands and knees in the house with that heat. Nah, you out somewhere getting drunk. One more break. If you guys want to go to the restroom right now, pause the video. As for me, I'm wearing a diaper. So... we got a lot of movies left, actually. Live Free, Die Hard. I like Justin Long in this movie as the sidekick, but just sort of like, it's PG-13. It just feels a little bland. 101 Dalmatians. I haven't watched that movie for a very long time. Escape from New York. This is probably like my favorite, or maybe second favorite John Carpenter movie of all time, right beside Halloween. Snake Plissken. Pinocchio. Man, that's a dark movie. Go back and watch Pinocchio again. Mad Max Fury Road, probably one of the best action films we've had in the last decade. One of my favorite movies and one of my most rewatched films of all time. I just love going back and watching this movie on 4K Blu-ray. It's just fun to look at, the visuals. Rictus Erectus, great character right beside Lord Humongous. So yeah, please, can we get a sequel? 300, hey, Gerard Butler covered up in grease and oil with abs. The Island, I think, is a very overlooked Michael Bay movie. Probably, this might be Michael Bay's best movie. It might be. Trainspotting, a movie that made me never want to do drugs. Citizen Kane, you gotta own Citizen Kane because it makes you look like a true pseudo-intellectual. Psycho, just a movie that, if you're into filmmaking, you've got to watch this movie. It's really inspiring. Beauty and the Beast, Swordfish. Two reasons to watch this movie, and both of them revolve around Halle Berry. Scorpion King. I love Scorpion King. It's stupid. It's such a big B movie, but a fun one. Captain America. I really always enjoyed Captain America. It's just fun, and I love the sequences where he's doing his propaganda film things where he's on stage dancing around. Plus, when he's all skinny, like, it reminds me of myself before I started working out. How to Train Your Dragon. Fast and Furious, the original movie, sort of the Point Break remake. Kick-Ass 2. I like Kick-Ass 2. Not as good as the original. Could have been a lot better, but still enjoyed it. Tron Legacy, a movie that I wanted to enjoy. It looks great on Blu-ray. I love the visuals. I love the score by Daft Punk. But man, the story is not quite what you want it to be. The Hills Have Eyes. Hannibal. I like Hannibal. I like the villain of this movie, Mason. It's just his little accent. He's played by Gary Oldman. Just great. Cordell. Just watch it. Gravity, I haven't watched this since theaters, and I really don't have any urge to. Don John, once again, I like movies that I sort of relate to, and Don John in many ways is sort of, at one point was sort of like almost a biopic about my life. Take that how you will. The Conjuring 2, haven't watched this since theaters, didn't love it, didn't hate it. Aladdin, my favorite classic animated Disney film of all time. I had the Steelbook edition. Love it. I keep saying I love it a lot, but I do. So yeah. The Long Kiss Goodnight, Casino, Fast 6. I probably will never watch this movie again. Like, Fast 5 is where I think the Fast and Furious movies, like, that was good. That was just over the top enough to be entertaining. The ones after that are just, to me, they hurt my brain. We have October Sky, great Gyllenhaal film. Toy Story. Man, if I'm ever feeling down, I want to go back to my childhood happy place, I watch Toy Story. It really is just, I think it's Pixar's overall one of their best movies. I really do. The next, I have Magic Mike, the sequel. The next one is Sandlot, a great coming-to-age film. I like how we went from Magic Mike 2. Don't judge. Just don't judge me. Don't ask why. The Sandlot to me is like that movie you have to watch every summer, and it's just one of the best coming-to-age films of all time. And it's one of those films that always made me wish I had friends like the ones in The Sandlot. Just something about building a treehouse and trying to get a baseball bat. Just, Wedding Crashers, Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift. I liked Tokyo Drift. Good Will Hunting. The Ring, one of my favorite horror films of all time. When I was in the theater watching this, and they opened up the door, and that girl's face was all like this, that sent chills down my spine. Warriors come out to play. This is just a bizarre movie, and this is another one of those movies as a kid I watched over and over on beta tape because my dad recorded this. He also liked this movie. Just a bizarre film about all these crazy gangs. It's almost like a comic book movie in a way, where they all just meet up and things go wrong. And then, like, some of the gangs, like one of them is called the Baseball Furies. Like, they have face paint and dress up like baseball players. Another one of the gangs cruise around on roller skates. That's great. All right, Sicario, Day of Soldado. Soldado. I thought this was a pretty decent sequel. Ghostbusters, there we go. Fast 5, really enjoyed Fast 5. Oh man, Lethal Weapon collection. I enjoyed the first two Lethal Weapons are my favorite. 7. I love 7. What's in the box? I love one box. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't think this movie gets the credit it deserves. This was actually a pretty decent remake in my opinion. I think it's well done, well acted. Jessica Biel in this movie. Yeah. Total Recall. Screw you. Fargo. Oh, don't you know? I love the dark humor in this film. I think they nailed it perfectly. Like the Coen brothers in this film, they only made this movie because they couldn't make Big Lebowski, so they had some downtime, so they made this, and I'm glad they did. The next one is District 9. Youth and Revolt, sort of a fun movie to watch every once in a while. Pulp Fiction, the pawn shop scene down in the basement, watching that as a young kid really destroyed my life. Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, you have to watch this every Thanksgiving. Halloween on 4K, man. Yes, please. Thank you, John Carpenter. Just so, it's just a perfect streamlined movie. It's just, and I loved how the movie didn't have a huge budget. That's what makes this movie so great. Thor Ragnarok. This is probably the most rewatched Marvel film there is for me. It's fun, it's light, but it's everything I want. I love the synth music throughout this film. And I love the tone that they took Thor in this film. They actually like rebooted his character to make him fun and entertaining. I have another copy of Halloween. I feel like some of these I buy and studios send me a copy, but I have it on 4K. I have another copy of American Psycho on 4K as well. Huh. You know what I'm gonna do, guys? I'll tell you what. And if you truly are watching this video, guess what? If you comment down below and you give me your favorite American Psycho quote, give the video a thumbs up. I will randomly pick someone down in the comment section and I will send you this extra copy of American Psycho on 4K. So leave a comment down below, give the video a thumbs up, and leave an American Psycho quote down below. And I'll pick somebody at random. Avengers Infinity War. Man, oh man. Talk about like the pinnacle of what an Avengers film can be. In my opinion, I think this is a much more solid film, a much stronger narrative compared to Endgame. But I've also rewatched this many, many times since owning it on 4K. The Matrix on 4K looks phenomenal. Buy it. Batman Begins. I'm sorry, my brain is melting out of my head right now. Batman Begins on 4K. Yes, okay, sorry. We already talked about Batman Begins, but I have it on 4K. It looks great. Oh man, Gladiator. Gladiator. Are you not entertained? Listen, I said I like Swords and Sandals movies already, but I rewatch this movie every time. If I want to watch an epic movie, this is the one I watch. I think this is my favorite Ridley Scott movie of all time, and I'm hoping the new sequel movie is good. I have the entire Clint Eastwood collection here. There's a ton of Clint Eastwood films in here. I'm not going to go through them, but yeah, get off my lawn. Black Panther, Indiana Jones, The Complete Collection. Always enjoyed Indiana Jones 3 the most. Prometheus, a movie that was really good in many ways. I always really enjoyed the I think they could have dived more into the concept of like the creation of human life and if the engineers were behind it. I wanted more of that. Vertical Limit. I watched this movie in the theaters with my sister back in like 2000, 2001. Just an intense thrill ride. I don't know if people would still like it today, but back in like the early 2000s, this movie was like pure intensity. Camp Nowhere, a movie I watched as a kid. Kids go away to a summer camp. They rent however they want. They have fireworks, fun, good time. Robin Hood. For a very long time as a kid, this was my favorite classic Disney animated movie. Speed, quintessential Keanu Reeves movie. And this movie still holds up. Like, they just don't make movies like this anymore. Or at least action movies. Backdraft. 21 Jump Street. Listen, everyone thought this movie was going to be garbage, and this is a great comedy. Like this movie is what sort of got Channing Tatum back on like the radar again. That showed that he could be funny and not just Magic Mike. Minority Report, Titanic. I remember seeing this movie in the theater as a kid. I always really enjoyed Titanic, and watching the scene where Jack draws Rose for 10 cents. Draw me like one of your French girls, Jack. Yeah, try watching that scene beside your mom back in 1997. The Fly, Jeff Goldblum, just falls apart. Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Great, phenomenal movie. The only really good Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Really good film. Really enjoy it. Pirates of the Caribbean, A Dead Man's Chest, not so good. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Just watching these movies, just talking about these movies, just holding these movies, make me want to eat a pizza. If you give a retard a calculator, he'll try to turn on the TV. Is that politically correct? No, but you know what? It's a great quote. Whiplash, a movie that made playing musical instruments and jazz music intense. And when you can do that in a film, it's a good movie. So Whiplash, well, that was one of my favorite movies of that year. Deadpool 2, really enjoyed Deadpool 2. Kick-Ass. I've always really, like I've said this once, but if you gave me just enough money and time to make a movie, it might be something like Kick-Ass. So that's why I always sort of enjoyed this movie. Star Wars, sort of waiting for the untampered versions of these films on 4K. Split. Absolutely. James McAvoy, man, that man can act. My name's Hedwig. You want a hot dog? I could watch this again right now. If only Glass was as good. Batman v Superman. I've talked about this movie so many times over the years, and every time I rewatch this movie, I sort of get frustrated. I watch it, I think, this could have been so much better. Don't get me wrong, there's some moments I enjoy in this movie, there's some visuals I like. and I'm so disappointed we're never going to get that solo Ben Affleck Batman movie. But I guess I can watch him in this movie. Next up is Alien Covenant. I wanted more backstory on the engineers, other than just watching them all die when they drop an atom bomb on their head. But overall, entertaining. Logan. Hey, make more comic book movies like this. This was a good one. Logan is just... It's an emotional comic book movie that makes you feel something, and I think it was one of the perfect send-offs. I still always wanted to see Wolverine in his mask. Blow, Master and Commander. Master and Commander is a movie that no one talks about, not many people will watch, but once again, I enjoy time period movies, and this movie it goes back to the 1800s. You get to go to the Galapagos Islands. It's just a really fun movie out to see. The Lego movie, I don't really ever want to watch this again. Like, the Lego movies were fun the first time you watch them, but they don't have a lot of replay value, in my opinion. It's like the shit gets old really quick. Shutter Island, Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen. I have a lot of duplicates in here. Say hello to my little friend. Hey, Ma, her womb is so polluted, she can't even have a little baby, Mom. That's just one line I always remember from this movie. I'm going to try to hurry up and do this before my battery dies. The Green Hornet, Iron Man 2, Hellboy 2, Peter Pan, Too Fast, Too Furious. I remember seeing this in theaters like 6 times when I was in high school because there was no other good movies at the time. Kingpin. I love Kingpin. This is the movie that made me start... I joined a bowling league because of this movie. And I was pretty good at bowling. I had like 208 average at one point. It's not too bad. Disaster Artist. I don't think you really could have asked for a better movie about The Room besides The Room. Bye, Blu-ray. Dawn of the Dead, probably Zack Snyder's overall best movie. Once again, I like zombie movies, post-apocalyptic movies. Deadpool. Tangled. I enjoy Tangled. Don't judge me. I enjoy it. Full Metal Jacket. Heat. Once again, I love heist movies, bank robbery movies, and this is like the quintessential one. Day After Tomorrow, a disaster porn movie. Toy Story 2. Mallrats. Once again, Kevin Smith movies are just like, you relate to them. They're almost relaxing to watch. I just like to watch characters hang out and do things. The Big Lebowski. Well, hey man, there's a beverage here. The Big Lebowski. Probably my favorite Coen Brothers film. The Last Action Hero. Once again, I have another copy of this. You gotta have 2 copies of Last Action Hero. Apocalypse Now. The first Avengers film. Go back and rewatch this. It's pretty good, man. I forgot how good this movie was. I watched it recently. The Force Awakens. Overall, I like this film. I think there's like 10 minutes of this movie that should have been redone, at least. I just hated when Han Solo goes up to the space storage facility thing and you have big CG squiggly monsters chasing them. It didn't feel right. Then you have Spider-Man Homecoming, the Steelbook. I don't love the way the Steelbook looks. Oh gosh, I think my battery's gonna die. Wreck-It Ralph, The Wrestler. Man, I'm a huge fan of professional wrestling, and just like the indie wrestling scene in this movie where he's just like shooting up steroids and like just giving it everything he has for the love of the sport. War of the Planet of the Apes, Avatar. Hey, I like Avatar. I don't care what anyone says. This is a fun movie to watch on a 4K TV. Even though it's not 4K, it still looks really good. I'm looking forward to the next 27 Avatar movies. X-Men Days of Future Past. That's how you make an X-Men movie. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The Lost Boys still in the plastic. I've seen the movie 50 times though. Superbad, a movie this is pretty much like, this is my life in high school. If you made a movie about my life in high school, it's Superbad. Star Trek Into Darkness, Star Trek Beyond. The first Star Trek, directed by J.J. Abrams. I really enjoyed this version. Kong, Skull Island, still in the plastic. Wanted to like this more than I did. Oh, man. One of my favorite Pixar films of all time, The Incredibles. Cape Fear, Counselor, Sin City, Stand By Me. This is a film I love coming to age stories about kids just walking down train tracks to find a dead body. I love Corey Feldman in this movie. Just some of the dialogue back and forth. Like, this is how kids really talked. And Last Samurai, The Ten Commandments. I don't know, I bought it randomly. Collateral. Probably Tom Cruise's best performance. I love his character in this movie. He's just walking around being a badass. Taxi Driver. This might be overall my favorite Scorsese film. Once again, I love characters and their narration and their inner thoughts, no matter how dark and seedy they are. And that's what you get with Taxi Driver, and it looks great. Apollo 13, Scott Pilgrim, another copy of Lord of War. I think I have 3 copies of Lord of War. Daylight with Stallone. Skyfall, wanted to like this more than I did. The Sixth Sense, I See Dead People. I also see my battery flashing, it wants to die. Dunkirk, this was my #1 movie of 2017. I wish it had more rewatch value than it does, though. I will admit that it needs that. The Justice League. Why couldn't you have been better? I know everyone, hey, I want to see the Zack Snyder cut. Well, it doesn't really exist, so that's unfortunate. King Kong, Live, Die, Repeat, great film. I want to see a sequel to this. I think they're making it or working on it, but man, just Tom Cruise running around in a giant mech suit with Emily Blunt. Ugh. Cars 3, I watched like 25 minutes of that and I couldn't take anymore. And Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Oh, my ass hurts. All right, it's done. It's finally done. I did it. I hope you guys enjoyed the collection video. I have to clean up this mess. And the next video where I do this once again will be coming in 2055, so look out for that video. But once again, all the links to everything I mentioned earlier is down below in the description box. And leave your thoughts, your opinions down below in the comments section. And yeah, I think I'm just going to go to sleep right now on top of this. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. That way I can see you next time. Bye-bye.